I never imagined that one wrong phone call could shatter everything I knew. I was in my small, poorly lit kitchen, scrubbing the final dishes after a long, tiring day at my job. The quiet buzz of the fridge and the light dripping of water from the sink were the only sounds I could hear. Then my phone vibrated on the counter. It was Mom. How odd. She never called me this late at night. My heart gave a little leap. Was something off? I dried my hands on my worn dish towel and picked up the phone. Hello, Mom? Nothing. I moved the phone away from my ear and glanced at the screen. The call was still going, and then I heard it, her voice. Happy, unburdened, giggling. No way, she isn't truly a part of us. I became completely still. What? I put the phone closer to my ear. I had to have heard it wrong. Perhaps she was talking about someone else, but then she kept on talking. She's only good for covering the costs. That's it. Something sharp and cold settled in my chest. My fingers gripped the phone so hard that my knuckles whitened. Another voice then spoke, my stepfather. He gave a low, amused laugh. As long as she keeps sending the money, let her believe she's one of us. The room started to spin. It felt as if someone had reached into my chest and ripped my heart out. I'd dedicated years, many years, to them, paying their debts, funding my sister's education, sending them money whenever they requested it, thinking I was helping my family. To them, I was simply a source of money. I wasn't viewed as a daughter or sibling. I wasn't considered a member of the family. I was simply a means to an end. A part of me shattered. However, I didn't disconnect the call. I allowed them to continue speaking. I knew that if they believed I was still naive, they wouldn't anticipate my next move. I didn't allow myself to shed tears, not at that moment. Instead, I made myself take deep breaths. I maintained a calm tone of voice as I continued to listen, carefully absorbing every word they uttered. My mom's words, "She's too lovesick to leave," felt like a sharp blade. Each spoken word was harsh and filled with spite. She has no other options. She'll always return. I nearly let out a sarcastic chuckle. Oh, Mom, if only you knew. I inhaled deeply and terminated the phone call before they realized I was listening. My heart pounded, but I forced a completely composed expression. I wasn't going to show them my vulnerability. Not yet. That evening, I sent my mother the usual text saying, "I love you." It was a habit developed over many years of wishing for love that I would never get. She texted back a thumbs-up emoji. That was all the confirmation I needed. I had spent my whole life trying to earn their love. Now I intended to reclaim everything they had robbed me of, and I would make them regret ever underestimating my capabilities. I continued to act accordingly. I still answer their phone calls. I still sent small amounts of money every so often, just enough to keep them from becoming suspicious. But secretly, I was undermining their power over me, step by step. First thing I did was update all my bank passwords. After that, I discreetly moved my savings into an account that they knew nothing about. I stopped paying their rent automatically, and I canceled all the subscriptions they were mooching off of my accounts. Bit by bit, I began to distance myself, cutting off the financial support system that they had built their lives upon. They probably assumed I was still under their control, but now I was the one in charge. My sister's birthday was approaching. In the past, I'd really gone all out. Luxurious presents, extravagant parties, footing the bill for everything because I wanted her to feel adored. But not this time. I sent a simple card, no presents. No cash, and then I waited. That evening, my mom called. "Where's the money?" Not even a greeting. Not even a "how are you?" Straight to the money. I allowed a tiny, joyless smile to play on my face. Nailed it. I was certain a card would do the trick. I said this, keeping my tone friendly. A pause, then a sharp, annoyed exhale. "You know we depend on you." "Don't be selfish." Selfish, I almost cracked up. Me, selfish? I had spent my whole life defending them, doing whatever I could to keep them content. And the one time I set a boundary, I was the bad guy. I kept my voice level. "I don't know if I can help as much anymore." The response was immediate. "What do you mean?" My mother's voice was tense. "You know we're struggling." Oh, I knew. I also knew they weren't truly struggling, they were just addicted to exploiting me. But I played my role. "I'll do my best," I lied. Because the most satisfying part of revenge is catching them off guard. Their tightly controlled image began to crumble quicker than I thought it would. Just a week after my mom's entitled, furious phone call, I didn't respond to their texts for the first time in a long time. It was a peculiar sensation. I had been trapped in a cycle of responsibility for ages. The moment my phone alerted me to my mother's name, I'd immediately answer. Whenever they needed money, I'd send it without hesitation. The feeling of intense guilt would crush me if I refused, but not anymore. That evening, I sat alone in my apartment, nestled on my couch with a warm cup of tea, watching the texts accumulate. Initially, they were gentle. "Sweetie, are you busy? Just checking in." Then they became more demanding. "We need you to pay the electric bill. It's important." And eventually, the anger surfaced. "Are you actually ignoring us now, after everything we did for you? After raising you? Do you think you're better than your own family?" I looked at the screen, my heart racing, squeezing my phone so hard my knuckles whitened. They didn't even try to hide it. No thoughts for me. No, "Are you all right?" Just a straight-to-the-point demand, my money. My obedience, my quietness. A revolting, terrible feeling twisted inside me. However, just this one time, I held firm. I silenced my phone, flung it onto the sofa, and let all their messages just disappear. And for the very first instance in my life, I was able to sleep without feeling like I was suffocating under their demands. The following morning, I woke up to 30 unanswered calls. A whopping 30. My phone was practically vibrating from the sheer volume of notifications. I took a calming breath before I began reading the texts. The first couple were filled with manipulation. "Mom, I just don't understand what's happening with you. Are you all right? You know you can confide in me." Such a blatant falsehood. Then came the guilt trips. "Mom, considering everything we've done for you after raising you. Stepfather, your mom is really stressed out because of you. Is that what you're aiming for?" And then, after they realized I wasn't answering, the threats surfaced. "Mom, if you don't want to be a part of this family, that's fine. But don't come running back when you realize what a huge error you made. Stepfather, don't forget who helped you when you had nothing." I nearly burst out laughing. When I was nothing, I was the person working 2 jobs in high school just to ensure we didn't lose our home. I was the one who settled all their financial obligations while they were constantly overspending. I was the one who gave up everything because I believed I was aiding my family. And now, just because I had the nerve to stop being their emotional punching bag, I was somehow considered useless. I released a shaky breath, my hands quivering. I felt the rage boiling inside, just below the surface. However, I refused to let it take over. They imagined they could manipulate me, distort my reality, and intimidate me into returning. They didn't grasp that I'd already escaped them. During the subsequent 2 weeks, I did something unprecedented for me. I focused solely on myself. I visited a cafe and purchased coffee simply because I wanted to, not because I had to scrimp and save for them, but because I felt like it. I enjoyed a weekend away for the initial time in years. No calls. No pressure, no family obligations looming over me. I slept peacefully without any troubling dreams. And the peculiar part? I didn't yearn for them. For ages, I'd believed I couldn't exist without them. I thought that if I left, I'd be adrift, alone, and unloved. Yet now, as I sat in my small but serene apartment, gazing at the sunset through the window, I understood something. I was finally liberated. Then it occurred. The instance I had been anticipating. I was in the midst of grocery shopping when my phone vibrated. An unfamiliar number. I paused before responding. "Hello? You little..." I pulled the phone away from my ear as my mother's piercing voice nearly deafened me. She was enraged. "Mom, you canceled the credit card?" "Ah." So they finally saw me. "Oh, I believe I communicated that I couldn't provide as much assistance anymore." "Mom, stop that. We have no funds. How could you do this to us?" My stepfather took the phone. His tone was quieter but brimming with fury. "I need you to fix this, stepfather, right now." I stood there, leaning on my shopping cart, gazing at a shelf full of cereal, and I didn't react at all. Not me, though. Silence. It was a first. They were speechless. I felt like their world was crumbling, because for the first time, they understood that I wasn't in their control any longer. That evening, I got a barrage of nasty messages. Their tone shifted quickly from angry to pitiful. "Mom, I'm sorry, baby. We just got emotional. Can we please chat? Stepfather, we're having a hard time. You wouldn't let your family suffer, would you?" And finally, frantic, "Mom, could you just send a little bit? I swear I'll pay you back." I knew they were lying. They would never give me money. I blocked them. And suddenly, those bonds that had held me down for so long, they just broke. I should have known that would happen. As soon as they realized I wasn't returning, that I wasn't their safety net, they resorted to their next option. Other people. First, it was family friends. I got a text from Aunt Linda, who I hadn't spoken to in ages. "Aunt Linda, sweetheart, your mom is really upset. She says you're ignoring everyone. Family is important, call her." I looked at the message and my heart rate didn't change. I didn't even need to wonder. I knew precisely what my mother had told her. I figured she likely sobbed to Linda, taking on the role of a victimized, struggling mother, abandoned by her heartless daughter. It's doubtful she'd have brought up the years of her manipulative behavior, the financial exploitation, or how she'd found my use of me so amusing. My jaw tightened. My thumbs were poised over my phone's screen. I could have laid it all out for her. But really, why should I bother? Linda hadn't bothered to check in when I was swamped by my family's constant needs. She hadn't offered support when I was paying off debts that were never mine to begin with, when I was working myself to the brink of collapse just so they could live comfortably. But now, out of the blue, she suddenly cared. I took a deep breath and started typing back. "Me, I understand your concern, but this is something I'm dealing with myself privately. I need some time alone." I tapped the send button, locked my phone, and didn't think another thing about it. If she were truly concerned, she would have asked for my perspective. But she never did. A week went by and then my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but I just knew. I picked up, trying to keep my voice neutral, my feelings hidden. "Hello?" A long moment of silence. Then, "Sweetheart," it was my mom. I felt a terrible sinking feeling in my stomach. It had been weeks since I'd heard her voice last. She sounded altered. The sharp, bossy tone was missing, along with that air of always expecting something. Instead, she sounded soft, tender, almost like a real mother. "I just want to chat," she said carefully. "No fighting, not asking for anything." "I just miss you." I had to swallow hard, gazing up at the ceiling. The old me would have crumbled immediately. I so wanted to believe she'd transformed, that she was a different person now. But I had evolved too. I recognized this game. It was just another form of manipulation. She had yelled, played the victim, and made threats, but none of it worked. Therefore now she was pretending to be a caring mother, attempting to get me to come back to her. I shut my eyes, forcing my feelings to remain under control. "Me. I require some distance, Mom. Quiet." Then I let out a long, soft breath. "Mom, I truly don't grasp your actions." I swallowed hard. "You don't," she paused. "I understand we haven't always gotten along, but we are relatives." There it was, her nonchalant manner of dismissing everything. It was her unwillingness to admit to anything she'd done. The deceptive effort to change what happened, acting as if her words hadn't broken me. But I wasn't going to believe it. "Me. You accidentally left the phone off the hook that night?" Silence. And then the sharp intake of breath, like realizing you've been discovered. I could imagine her expression then, her eyes growing wider, her throat tightening. She tried to recover. "What? What are you talking about?" I took a deep breath, keeping my tone even and controlled. "I heard everything, Mom. That night when you claimed I didn't belong here, that I was just helpful for paying the bills." Silence, a long, heavy silence. Then her voice became hushed, cautious. "That's not how I meant it." I almost laughed at her. Of course it was me. "So you didn't say it?" Another break. Then her voice became defensive. "Mom. You're twisting the facts." There it was, the excuses. The manipulation, the constant dodging of accountability, it was all there. According to her, she wasn't sorry for what she had said. She was sorry I was the one who overheard it. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool. "Me. I don't believe there's any situation that would justify what she did." Her voice quickened beside me, barely audible. The conversation was slipping from her grasp, and she knew it. She attempted to change her tune, her tone turning soft, almost begging. "Mom, honey, that's not how I intended it. You're my daughter, I love you." For an instant, I felt a stab of pain. Not because I believed her, but because a small piece of me still wanted to. But I just couldn't do it anymore. "Me, if you really care about me, then why was my worth only determined by how much money I gave you?" She caught her breath. She had nothing to say. Because she knew the reality. And so did I. I let out a sigh, looking outside at the city lights. "Me. I've given my entire existence trying to gain your affection, Mom." A trembling breath came from her. You don't have to work at it. I gave a wry smile. Then why did it always have a cost attached? More quiet. I heard the wheels turning in her mind, seeking a way to drag me back in. But it was over. Me. I believe we require some space. Her voice instantly became sharp. So what? Are you leaving us? Abandoning your family? I breathed out slowly, my decision solidifying within me. No, Mom, I'm merely choosing myself at last. Then, before she could start on another round of guilt trips and lies, I disconnected the call. And honestly, on this occasion, I didn't experience any guilt. I felt liberated, actually. I imagined that ending the call with my mom would be the breaking point, that they'd finally realize I was finished. However, I'd misjudged them. Individuals like my mother and stepdad weren't ready to give up. They employed manipulation. They plotted, they devised fresh strategies to tighten their grip. And this time around, they targeted the very thing they assumed would destroy me, my employment. It began gradually. A week after I stopped answering my mom's calls, my supervisor summoned me to his office. I entered, my stomach churning with unease. You wanted to see me? He gestured, interlacing his fingers. He shut the door. That never boded well. I complied, sitting in the chair across from his desk. He had a blank expression as he pushed his phone towards me. Do you recognize this number? I looked at the display. It was my mother's number. A shiver ran down my back. What did she say? I inquired, attempting to keep my voice even. He sighed, massaging his forehead. She contacted the office, claimed she was concerned about you. That you've been behaving strangely. She insinuated you might be engaged in something hazardous. I was stunned. My thoughts were spinning, attempting to grasp the significance of what I was hearing. I anticipated the guilt trips, the yelling, the insincere apologies, but I hadn't prepared for her to jeopardize my work. I gritted my teeth, my pulse accelerating. You don't believe her, do you? My boss let out a weary breath. I don't. But HR needed to take notice of it. Apparently, family worries regarding an employee's welfare. We're required to keep a record of that. I try hard to remain composed. She isn't being truthful. That's what I thought. He gave me a calculating stare. But what would drive her to such lengths? I released a breath, holding tightly to the chair's sides, because she's losing her grip on me. That day, I departed from the office feeling enraged. This went beyond simple, small-minded scheming. It was a full-blown conflict. I had spent years going above and beyond for my mom, believing if I could just do one more thing, if I would just give up a little more, she would love me the way I loved her. But this was definitive evidence she never had. A real parent would not try to ruin her own child's life just to force them to obey. She was finished pretending to be the one who's been harmed. Now, she was taking on the role of the bad guy. I sat in my vehicle, grasping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles were white. Then I did something that I had never done previously. I phoned my mother first. She answered after the second ring, her voice saccharine, overflowing with insincere worry. Sweetheart, I'm so glad you finally called me. I've been so anxious. I tightened my jaw. Stop the theatrics. Silence followed, then the change. The authentic her tone turned harsh, icy. What do you want? I chuckled, but it wasn't in amusement. You actually attempted to get me fired? She let out a theatrical sigh. Oh, quit being so over the top. I was just calling since I was worried about you. I almost threw my phone at the dash. Concerned about me? She had never cared about me. I can't believe it. You called my workplace and reported that I was mixed up in something perilous. What on earth is your problem? Her tone instantly became hostile. I simply informed them that you've been behaving oddly lately. Perhaps they should keep tabs on you. My sight swam with fury. She was attempting to destroy me, not out of love, not out of genuine concern, but because she couldn't tolerate the idea of not being in charge. Me. You will not get to manipulate my life anymore, Mom. Her tone grew icy. Oh, honey, do you really think you can just abandon your family? I took a deep breath. Then I let it out. I already have. And this time, I ended the call before she could say anything further. That evening, I blocked her phone number. I blocked my stepdad. I blocked my sister. And for the first time in years, my phone was finally quiet. No more messages requesting cash. No more guilt-inducing voice messages. No more emotional ties that kept me tethered to those who didn't deserve me. I looked at my empty call history. My pulse was speeding. Then slowly, incredibly slowly, I almost didn't notice it, but I smiled. Because at long last I was unburdened. I believed that would be the conclusion. I was mistaken. 2 weeks later, I received a message from my cousin. Cousin, hey, your mom has been calling everyone claiming she's facing eviction, that she's got no place to live, that you deserted her when she required you most. I sighed, massaging my forehead. Of course. She was no longer receiving financial support from me. Now she was acting like the unfortunate martyr in hopes of getting someone else to bankroll her way of life. I replied in a text. Me, if things are that terrible, maybe she could sell off the expensive $2,000 designer bags I gifted her over the years. Cousin, seriously. So it's true, she really just used you for cash all along. I gazed at my phone. Then I sent another text, my last one, me. Yes, and I'm through pretending otherwise. A month went by. Then one night I received a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. I considered it for a second, then picked up. Hello. There was quiet, then a fragile, wavering voice. It's me. My sister. I took a deep breath. What do you need? She sniffled. They're losing everything, she said. I rested against the countertop. My face was neutral. That's not my concern. She let out a shaky sigh. I didn't realize, okay? I didn't know how bad the situation was. I tightened my jaw. You never ask, she didn't respond. Because we both understood the reality of the situation. She had gained from my pain, just like everyone else. But now that there was no money, now that I was out of the picture, she finally cared. Too late. She paused. Mom wants to see you. I let out a slow breath. I bet she does. Silence, then in a softer tone. I miss you, she whispered. I shut my eyes, a sharp pain twisting in my heart. I had always yearned to hear those words. But now they were unnecessary. I inhaled deeply. I hope things work out for you, sis. Then, before she could get another word in, I ended the call. And this time, I didn't look back.